Can he stand up? Was he doubled over in pain? I'm thinking like internal bleeding, kidney failure, punctured organs. I didn't know what was going on. I said, hi my loves, welcome back to my channel. First of all, I want to welcome all of the new subscribers. I know we have a whole bunch here now. I'm so happy you're here. My name is Ro. I help prison wives and family members feel educated, empowered, supported, and loved, not only during the time where their loved one is inside, but also long after they get out. If you stick with me and use the tools and exercises that I give to you, they will get out, they will stay out, you will live above stigma, beat statistics, and they will live happily ever after. Today I want to talk to you about going to the hole, how to survive it when your loved one is there. It is so torturous for us, and I get it. So I want to start with the story time about when Adam was in the hole, and then we'll talk about that. And the reason why this came up is because I had two friends whose husband went to the hole this week. I had one woman comment on one of my videos that her husband went to the hole, and then also I got an Instagram message from a woman whose son was pulled out of visit because she was accused of slipping him a package while in visit. She said, I would never do that. That's my son. Why would I get him in more trouble? I wouldn't even know where to get that. And he is now in the hole under investigation. So usually when stuff like that happens, a whole theme within a week or two feel as if it's kind of a sign to make a video for you guys about it. So let's start with the time Adam was in the hole. Usually Adam and I email each other once in the morning, once before bed, and then at some point in between, maybe once or twice during the day. He is so much better about it than I am, just because I have a crazy life. I go to work. If it gets busy there, I can't stop and send him an email. I don't send them from my work computer, of course, so I have to pick up my phone, and then I'm worried about people seeing me on the phone, etc. And I have a video coming out about that, about kind of how we settle into this life, and we're not doing so much all the time like we were in the beginning anymore. So if you feel like you're doing that and you're judging yourself for doing that, girl, know that I have that coming for you. So this was back when my mother was first re-diagnosed with cancer. She was diagnosed with cancer back in, I think, 09, 010, and then she had her mastectomy, her chemo, her radiation, and she went into remission for a whole bunch of years. And then I don't remember if it was 5 or 6 years later, it came back in her bones. So this was just when she was getting tests to see if it had come back, because her cancer numbers had jumped. Every 3 months she had to go get tests, and they jumped really high. I was kind of distracted. I was taking care of my mom. We were all kind of on eggshells waiting for these test results. And I didn't realize that I hadn't heard from Adam in 2 days. I'm sure to some of you guys that sounds insane, especially if you're just starting out, like drooling, waiting for their messages. And if you don't hear from them, you cry for hours and days. But remember, I'm so far beyond that. So I just didn't think twice. I thought maybe he was on lockdown. I thought maybe he was busy. So by 2.5 days later, it dawned on me, wait a minute, when's the last time I heard from him? And I picked up the phone and I checked the Corlinks app, and I was like, oh, that's really out of the ordinary. So let me just double check with one of my friends whose husband is there and see if something's going on. It was right before bed, so they would have already been on lockdown. So she said, let me check, I'll email him, but he's not gonna get it until tomorrow, because after lockdown, obviously they're in their cells and the computers are on the units. So they're not going to be able to get to the computers until after the doors are popped the next morning. She was so sweet about it, but I don't think she realized what she was doing or saying. So she writes back to me the next morning. She said, somebody else had seen him on the yard. He told a mutual friend, hey, his wife's looking for him, let him know. I get an email, not from Adam, from one of our very dear friends who was like a father figure to us. He still is, but since this took place, he's moved on. So Adam and this dear friend lived together in Allenwood when Adam was 23 years old, fresh inside, took him under his wing. He was the one that really got him into working out. He was the one that really got him on the right path. Very much like a father figure, although he would probably be really upset if he heard me say that, because even though everybody else said it, but he kind of cringed because he was inside since he was 23 and now he's in his 60s trying to overturn a life sentence as well, but under old law. So hopefully he will have his chance soon. Anyway, that's a tangent. He moved to McKean in the early 2000s, after Adam was settled, he was awarded to go down because Allenwood was a high security level prison. McKean's a medium security level. So he was awarded the points. He was able to move. Not knowing this, Adam was supposed to go to Wisconsin. Oh, that's a really good story for you guys. Adam was supposed to move to Wisconsin right before I came back around. So we had to try to backtrack that. Literally, the paperwork was in for him to go. And we had to try to backtrack that. I have to tell you the story about how that happened. That's how we really knew that we were serious without even realizing it. We'll do that story another time. Comment below if you want that story time. So this story, he winds up at McKean. They wind up together again. They spent about 8 or 9 years together before our friend moved on because he was awarded to go down to a low now, and he's out in the Midwest doing amazing. So at that point, I get this email from that mutual friend, from the father figure, and he said, hey, he's doing fine right now. He just took a little vacation. You'll hear from him as soon as you can. So I knew something was up, but I knew he wasn't in the hole. I knew that things were fine. I assumed he ran out of money, so I said back, does he need money? That was on a Friday. That Saturday, I will never forget, I was in the Walmart parking lot. I get a call from this girl, the mutual friend, and she's like, he's in the hole. So this took place the days in between, the days he was on vacation. What happened was he wasn't coming out of his cell. I'll tell you guys that story in a second. To that Saturday when I was at Walmart in the parking lot, she calls me and she's like, Adam's in the hole. And I was like, what happened? And she got wrapped up in the drama in inmate.com of it. This is exactly the story that I get. All I hear is he's in the hole. Yeah, everybody in the yard is talking about it. They all beat the lifer's ass. They got points for going after the lifer. Da 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 da. Yeah, the lifer got his ass kicked. The lifer's my husband. Okay. I don't think she realized how pissed I was until I responded, not at her, just at the situation. And I said, is he okay? And she's like, and I was like, can he stand up? Was he doubled over in pain? I'm thinking like internal bleeding, kidney failure, punctured organs. I didn't know what was going on. I said, does he have all of his teeth? I'm thinking the one thing that Adam holds on to is the fact that he's been in there for so long. And although he thinks they're yellow, he has all of his teeth. His teeth are beautiful, by the way, but not many people do who've been inside for so long because dental care is ridiculous and a lot of people don't have the best hygiene in there. So all these thoughts were going through my mind, and she's sitting here making light of it and getting all wrapped up in the gossip of it, because you know how it is in there. Word travels and everybody's talking about it. Everybody knows Adam. Adam's a big guy. He's 6'4". He is one of the best basketball players that most yards have ever seen. I've had people stop me on the way out of visit and see that. And one thing, I wish that I could see him play basketball now, because he's still running circles around guys in their 20s at 43 years old without an ACL that they won't fix. He had to rehab on his own. Another story for another time, because he found out on the operating table that they weren't going to fix it. Oof, that's a story and a half. So anyway, she was like, oh. And then I think she started to realize that I'm taking this way more seriously than she is. She's all wrapped up in it. So she's like, let me find out for you. In the meantime, this is March, you guys. I can't drive from New Jersey through the mountains of Pennsylvania all the way to the tippy top west of Pennsylvania. So it's an hour and a half from Buffalo. It's 3 hours from Cleveland. You're at the top of the Allegheny Mountains. There is so much ice and snow. When you drive up those roads, there aren't many guardrails. So I've had friends I had a friend whose family was from Ohio. She's like, we don't make that drive in the winter because there's no guardrails and you could just fall right off that cliff. 2, I had girls at visit the very first time I was there, which was in May, tell me that they don't come throughout the winter because they would literally just see cars flipped over on the side of the road. And Adam has lost a friend in a snowstorm while he was inside, and he holds that very close to his heart and he worries. So between all those factors, I'm a scaredy cat. I'm not trying to get myself hurt or killed. The spring will come. We will stay as safe as possible until we can remedy this whole thing and be together. And I just won't see him for those few months. It's fine. I'm used to it at this point. It sucked for the first year, and now it's just part of our relationship and the way that it works. So it's March. It's snowy out. I emailed that friend. This was Saturday. I'm about to leave so I can come up there and be there for Sunday and see with my own eyes that he is okay. 2 hours later, I get a phone call. It's him. Do not come up here. He is fine. I promise you he's fine. He wasn't being a jerk. He was being very fatherly, firm, but fatherly, making excuses. I could tell, please don't come up here. It'll just make things worse, blah, 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 blah. I said, fine. I will not come up there, but I need you to let me know what's going on. Of course I will. You know I will. You don't, that goes without say, blah, blah, blah. He kept me in the loop like every day or every couple days. I spoke to SIS. It'll just be a couple more days, I promise. It lasted 10 days. He was amazing. The very following weekend, thank God we had a good weather weekend, and I was able to go up there and I was able to talk to him and see him in person and find out exactly what happened. The lifer did not get beat up. Yes, he did have 2 black eyes. When he was on vacation, when that friend said for a couple days and he wasn't in the hole yet, he was hiding out in his cell. He didn't want anybody to see his face, 2 black eyes. And even when they came to get him, he was sitting at his desk. He had his arm up like this. The cop goes, Clausen. He's like, yeah. He had a baseball cap on. He's like, hey, I need you to turn around. So he said he looks down, he turns around, cap down, trying to hide his face. He's like, yeah, man, like this. And the cop's like, I need to see your face. Showed him his face. He's like, oh, man. All right, listen, get yourself together, grab your stuff. When you're ready, come down and meet me at the officer's desk. That's how respected he is in there. I'm not going to tell you guys what happened. I will wait for him to come home and be able to tell you that story one day, but just know he was by no means in any way was the life or beat up. Please. In fact, it's a very sweet story about what happened, but again, I'm going to have to not talk about that until he can tell you that story himself. So that's something to look out for because he will be here to tell his stories himself. So that was the one and only time in all of these years that I've been involved with him and he's been in the hole. I'm very blessed by that. I'm very blessed that it only lasted 10 days. I'm very blessed that I am with a good boy, a reformed boy. That's why I do what I do. If he was constantly in and out, in and out, in and out, I would definitely reevaluate my life and my situation and potentially not be here anymore. But I have been through countless, I'm talking countless, probably hundreds of lockdowns at this point. And I kind of think it's the same, although I know them being in the hole is the worst of those two. What I found works the best for me that I want to pass along to you guys is distract yourself. Because there is nothing that's going to make it better. There is nothing that's going to make him come out of there faster that you can do. There is absolutely nothing in this situation that you have control over. And if you allow your emotions to get the best of you, it's going to be a really long, sad, and scary days, months, God forbid, years that they're away and you can't access them the way that you're used to with the phone and email if you have it, JPay if you have it or you don't have it when they go to the hole. Letters are going to be slow. So that is the first thing I recommend is distract yourself. Distract yourself by having things that you truly and genuinely enjoy as a go-to. So for example, what I did during that time was I love to cook. One of my passions in life is to take a not so healthy recipe, a comfort food recipe, and morph it and change it and make it taste great, but make it a healthy version of whatever that recipe is. Or just try new things. So I would collect new recipes. On my lunch break, I would go shopping for groceries. I would get all the groceries I needed for the new recipe. So I would go to work on my lunch break. I would get all the ingredients that I needed. I would go back to work to finish out the day. I would then go to the gym. And then in that free time in the evening, where my thoughts could potentially get the best of me, I would try out my new recipes because that takes a while to prepare the food, to cook the food, to eat the food, and then to clean up after the food, and then you're exhausted and it's time for bed. So that's my thing. That's what I love to do. If you love to read, you could literally save books for these types of situations for you to read. You can try to find new movies if that's your thing, but here's something I'm going to caution you against is just flipping the channels and watching TV to distract yourself, because that's not really a distraction, right? How many times are you watching TV and you find yourself on your phone, you didn't watch half of that show, or your mind's wandering? Because that's not really a distraction. That's just kind of a mind numbing activity, and then your mind still can race. You can get lost in those thoughts, and I know that because I've been there. So I wouldn't use the TV unless it's a show that you're really into. If it's like a series on Netflix that you're into. Bloodline was my thing for a few weeks. Loved it, and that really kept my mind going. But other than that, I wouldn't suggest using TV. But distractions are huge. Find your thing. For me, working out is huge because it was always my thing anyway, but it also releases endorphins. So you might want to just go for some walks. Make sure you have a good podcast or a good book, or you could even watch my YouTube videos as you're walking or listening to them like they're podcasts or other YouTubers, just to distract those thoughts, because walking also, you have a lot of time to think. And then the other thing for him, I want you to write a letter as soon as you find out, because they can take their time giving them their mail if there's an investigation going on for whatever they did to get themselves there. But eventually they do have to wind up giving them their mail unless they're holding it, which happens sometimes. But write a letter right away. This way you can get a correspondence going back and forth as fast as possible, because you're going to want to hear from him. Don't get upset if he doesn't tell you what happened, if he doesn't give you details. He's not hiding that on purpose. He can't talk about it. So don't be controlling and have to know everything. Just understand that there are things that he is not going to be able to tell you or talk about. Don't try to push the envelope. Just know from me, your sister, who's been doing this for a really long time, he can't talk about it. Don't ask. Don't even ask him what happened to get him in there, because you're not going to get the full story, I promise you. Next thing I want you to do is, prior to this, right now, today, I want you to talk to him, and I want you to get a list of books from him that he wants to read. My friend does this. They call them lockdown books. You don't send those books. You keep this list, almost a wish list of his. You can even put it up on Amazon for family and friends to see, so they can help you with that list. And then when he goes on lockdown or he goes to the hole, that's when you start sending that list of books. You don't send them to him every other day of the week, because he can't take those books with him when he goes to the hole. He can get them while he's in there. So that's another thing I would do. Books and magazines that he likes, have a list waiting of things that you know he wants, or at least authors that he likes. One of my friends used to do that. She had a list of the authors that he liked, and then she would take the ones that were series. She would send one of the series at a time every few weeks, so she knew that he had reading material and something that would keep his mind going in there. It sucks, you guys. It sucks really bad. But just know, just like everything else we say here, one day is one day closer to him coming out. I would call the facility or get on Invisible Shackles and ask people, what is visit like for the hole when they're at the facility? I would call the facility and see if he specifically or she specifically is getting any visits while they're in the hole. And then if you can get to visit, I would say go to visit, brighten their day for a little bit. The reason that my friend didn't want me to go to visit is because they were investigating the story that they were told. They were making sure that it was bogus, and then they were making sure that he was safe. So he didn't want that to be jeopardized in any way. And second of all, he was protecting his friend. How mortifying would that be for him to come out and me see him with two black eyes? Although I have to say, he see me with my black eyes because, no, I did not get in a fight. When I had surgery twice on my septum, it only happened the first time. Girl, the black and blues were insane. Like all here, all up here. I am not too proud. I am not above posting a picture. So if I find one, I'll link them in there. I literally took a picture every single day. It looked like I got beat with a stick all here, and then it dropped. So it was down here, swollen. It was hysterical. And I was so swollen, my lip went under like this. It was so crazy. But I get it. He didn't want me to see him like that. His friend was protecting him. There was a lot going on. There's a lot of an investigation. There's a lot of stuff going on when they're inside the hole. So yes, it sucks. Frankly, it sucks more than probably anything else that we have to go through besides for transfer. So it's up there with the crummiest things that on the outside we have to support them through, and up there with probably top crummiest things that they have to experience in there. It sucks. But you being miserable out here and punishing yourself and putting yourself in jail out here is doing nothing to help either one of you. All it's doing is making you more depressed and less able to support him through it, because you want to pull him out of that depression. Write to him, girl. Write to him as often as you possibly can. He needs stuff to lift him up in there or she needs stuff to lift her up in there, because it's miserable in there. And it's part of it. At some point, Everybody's going to go to jail inside of jail. It's just the way that it is. We're all here to support one another. If you have tips and tricks on how you do it, if you're somebody whose loved one goes in and out of the hole very often, you probably have come up with way more tricks than I have, way more tips than I have. Post them in the comments below. You guys keep staying strong, keep loving strong, keep supporting one another through this journey, because you're one day closer to this whole entire thing being over, and also one day closer to he or she being out of the hole and back into more of your normal swing and routine. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one.